day, and welcome to EDMS, where engineering drawing is made clear, structured, and easy to master. This is part 2 of our 2-part series about your EGD paper 1. If you haven't watched the first part, I will put it up here on the screen for you to go check part 1 out. Let's continue. Have a look at the Interpenetration and Development. 2021 was the last time the DBE have asked interpenetration and development. But this is not to say that you will not get one in your first paper. You need to be able to answer a interpenetration and development or a solid geometry. So my advice to you is to go through both of them and make sure that you understand how to answer both. Interpenetration and development and solid geometry is very close to each other. The only difference with interpenetration and development is that you need to develop a certain object. But most of the rules that we follow at solid geometry, we are going to implement at interpenetration and development. We also know that the first paper is drawn in first orthographic angle. So this will be our front view and this will be our top view. Some important tips that you can take with you. Number, very important. When you number your corners, it is easy to project them to the secondary views to get marks of the specific corner. This allows you to understand and see the view better in that view. Now, most of the times you will need to complete a view. Like you can see here with the front view is incomplete and you will need to get the interpenetration. What does this mean? It means where two solids are merged into each other and there where those points meet, we call it interpenetration. Because you will have more than one solid, I will suggest that you number one of them, 1, 2, and 3, and the other solid, you can use letters A, B, and C to help you to differentiate between the two. It's most likely that you also need to draw a third view, either a left or a right, and therefore you should use a 45-degree line to help you to complete that view. Remember, this is a first orthographic, so you will have front, top. This side will be your left, this side will be your right. 45 and a 45. It's always good practice to refer back to the assessment criteria to make sure that you adhere to everything that is required. So you can see here the top view, 6 marks, right view, 6 marks or 5 marks, front view, 16.5, and the development is 10.5. When it comes to the development, they usually ask one of the solids to be developed. When you develop a geometrical shape of a pentagon with 5 sides, hexagon with 6, or an octagon with 8, you need to get the true length of that side to do the development. You just need to make sure that you use the correct length, which is the true length, when doing the development. And this is where the numbers will do its thing. Let's say you needed to open a pentagon. So this is 5 sides. So you'll have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So you'll have like a number 1, a 2, a 3, a 4, 5, and then you end with 1. Whatever you start with, you will end because it's like a seam, which is the same. Now, you need to make sure that the distance from 1 to 2, and 2 to 3, and 3 to 4, and 4 to 5, and 5 to 1 are all the same. And you need to get the true length of 1 to 2, which you will have here 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So we'll add another one here to make it a hexagon. So this will be 6 and that will be 1. So when you look at the top view, you know that that 36 is the true length because from there to there should be 36. And you use the scale of 1 to 1. When it comes to the measurements of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6, you will go and fetch them either on the front view or in the left or the right view, depending on what they have asked you. But you will get those lengths in the top view. And you just go fetch them with your compass. You measure them out. And you just go put them on these lines. And then you can just connect them by using a ruler. Now let's say you needed to develop a cylinder. Your process is going to be a bit different. With a cylinder, you will need to determine the perimeter of the cylinder. meaning from one point all the way around to the other point, you will need to calculate. And to do this, you will say pi times diameter, and you will get an answer. Whatever that answer is, you will draw a line of that length. Now let's say we had a circle with a diameter of 38. You will say pi 3,14 times 38. You will get a length of 119,32. Now this is a problem. When you divide this into 12, you're going to get 9,94333. When this happens, you can't use your compass to make accurate measurements of 9,9433. That is impossible to put your compass on this. What you should do, however, is you will need to do a line division. Now, line division, you were taught in grade 10. You can draw a line at any degrees that you want. This can be at any degrees. You're not allowed to do it freehand. You're going to do it with a ruler. And I will draw a line of 12 centimeters. Why 12? Because with a cylinder or a circle, like you did with solid geometry, you need to divide the circle into 12 parts. And you'll do this by using your 30-60 degrees. Now I'll make 12 points on this line, each 1 centimeter in spacing. The last point down here, you will connect with the end point of that line. And then you need to draw parallel lines from this line on all the points on your division line. So you'll draw it up until you touch the line parallel to each other. And then this line will be divided into equally spaced parts. Also take note that you will always use auxiliary drawings to help you to get certain points on different views. So make sure that you are able to draw a pentagon, hexagon, octagon, any orientation as an auxiliary view, because you are most likely going to do this. When there's center lines needed, you add center lines in. Just like with the numbering of a geometrical shape, you will also need to number the circle of 1 to 12, where it's applicable if you needed to do a cylinder. And you just need to go look here if they state that you need to show hidden detail like they do here. Now, one of the biggest questions we usually get when it comes to the developments is, what do I start with? They will most likely tell you what to start with. Like you can see here, they say that you need to make a certain part the seam SS. So when we look at this drawing, we know that SS is down here. So that line will be the starting point of the development. So just have a look out for that. With the instructions, they will tell you with what line you need to begin the development. And that is it for interpenetration and development. Now, a 2-point perspective is definitely going to test your knowledge. The first thing that you need to do is to determine the vanishing point. Now, if we have a look at the top view here, we can see that the top view is rotated at 30 degrees and 60 degrees. This is important information regarding the construction of our vanishing points. When we want to determine the left vanishing point, we will need to go from the station point 30 degrees to the picture plane. Where it touches the picture plane, you need to come down, vertically down to the HL, and that will be your left vanishing point. And it's important to write this out because this counts a mark. When you want to determine the right vanishing point, you need to go at 60 degrees to the picture plane, then down to the horizontal line or horizon line, and this will be your right vanishing point. You write it out, that is a mark. This part is the most important part for the beginning. When getting the left and the right vanishing point wrong, you are only going to get marks for the vertical lines of your drawing. So this is a very important part. So vanishing point is the station point up to the degrees until you touch the picture plane, then down to the HL, and that is your vanishing point, either left or right. On the left, we went 30 degrees because it's rotated at 30. On the right, we went 60 degrees because this side is 60 degrees. If you are uncertain about the degrees here, you can use your triangle to determine the degrees. So I'll use my 60-30 degrees to see what this line lies at. That is 30 and this is 60. They can also give you a 2-point perspective at 45 and 45. Just be aware of that. You always need to double check these lines to make sure the degrees. Now it's good practice to start with the highest point, which is most likely the roof that you will need to draw in 2-point perspective. Now just remember, when something is not touching the picture plane, that means that you will need to extend that line in that degrees until you meet the picture plane. Where you meet the picture plane, you go to the specific height that what you need, and then you can take that to the vanishing points. Once you've done that, you can bring the height points down that you have projected to the picture plane, always to the SP. They always go to SP, the station point. Where you meet the picture plane, you stop and you come down vertically. So this will be your top part of the roof. It is also certain that you will need to be able to draw a circle or a half circle or just an arc in 2-point perspective. And when you need to do this, you need to divide a circle into 12 parts. But because this is only a quarter of a circle, we are going to get, I think it's 4 parts. Yes, this will be 1, 2, 3, and 4. So there where you get your points, you will project to the picture plane down on the height. This one on the picture plane, down on the height. So you'll bring these points of the circle down to the height, then to the vanishing point. And then you can bring these points to the station point. Then down, and there where they meet, you will get the marks. The most important thing here is not to get overwhelmed. You do bit by bit. So you start with one component with, like, let's say like the roof. You finish the roof. Then you go to the walls. Then you go to a window. Then to a door. So you build it bit by bit. Don't take all the points down to the station point and don't bring all the points down vertically. You do bit by bit, not to get confused with lines. It's always good practice to check out the assessment criteria to make sure that you adhere to all the criteria that you need to do and to see the mark allocation to know where you need to spend most of your time. Always read through the question and the instructions. Remember, we never put hidden detail in a 2-point perspective. And when a window is open and you can see through a window or a door, you will need to show the inside corners of the building. So just take note, that is sometimes a bonus mark. Also, don't get a fright if a part of the building surpasses the picture plane. So it's not touching, a part of it is touching, but a big part of it is surpassing the picture plane. This can also happen. And also, it can happen that the top view is not touching the picture plane. This can also happen. So just be aware of that. Now, question 4 is going to be your civil drawing, which is going to consist of a floor plan, an elevation, and a sectional view. There's going to be 2 pages. The first page is the information, and the second page is going to be the page where you need to do the drawings on. We're going to look at the first page and also the second page. So on the first page, on the left side, you're going to get information regarding the incomplete elevation. Underneath it, you're going to get information regarding the incomplete floor plan. And then you're going to get information regarding the roof notes and the sectional view with some dimensions. With the incomplete floor plan, you will get the labels for the features, for the windows and the doors, the sanitary fixtures, and also the electrical features. Take note that the numbers correlate to the floor plan. 1 will be indicated on the floor plan, and that is a one-way switch single pole. When they put the 1 on the floor plan, you will need to draw the correct symbol at that specific number. Then we also have the floor finishes, where they say what is the floor finish in each room designation. You'll also have a door and window schedule with the dimensions of each door and window. It will also show you the opening sides of the windows with an A and a B, B is a fixed panel, there's no opening, and A is the opening side. It means that this is where the lever is, and that is where the brackets are, so it will go from there to there, from the middle to that corner. We have the electrical symbols here. This will be applied to the electrical fittings over here. We have some roof components. These are things like a ridge cap, a fascia board, a gutter, and purlins. Then we also have the fixtures, the sanitary fixtures that you need to draw in conventional drawings, which means its most simple form. Okay, so we don't want you to draw it like this as the given here. We want you to draw it as simple as possible. And there are symbols for that you need to learn. On the right, the question is written out. The given information is basically everything that they gave us here on the page. The instructions are the instructions that you need to follow, how to answer the specific question. 4.1 will be the floor plan. 4.1.2 will be the elevation, and then 4.2 will be your sectional view. Take note that the sectional view will be drawn on a different scale than the floor plan and the elevation. The floor plan and the elevation are usually drawn on a scale of 1 to 50. So if we go to the next slide, you will see that the floor plan is drawn to a scale of 1 to 50, and the elevation will also be drawn to a scale of 1 to 50. This allows you to project widths up to the elevation to speed up the process. You can also project doors which are applicable to that specific elevation or view. So for instance, it's most likely that you will need to draw this view of the floor plan in the elevation. So you will project this window up, that sliding door and this door up, and also the corners of the walls you will also project up to the elevation to get the accurate drawing. Now when looking at this page, you will see that there's an assessment criteria on the right with each drawing and its marking criteria. So when you look at the floor plan, you'll see that there's doors and windows, fixtures, electrical labels, and hatching. When you look at the elevation, you'll see that it's the roof, the walls, the doors, the windows, and the labels. And when you look at the section, you will see the marking criteria, the roof, the slab, the wall, the hatching, windows, doors, and labels. This gives you an indication of the mark allocation of the drawing, and this allows you to determine where you should spend your time. You'll also have this, which is quite interesting. This is a penalty box. So if you, let's say, use an incorrect scale, you'll get a penalty of -2. If your views are not aligned, you'll get a penalty of -2. If your views are rotated, you'll get a penalty of -2. If the section view is incorrect, meaning also rotated, you'll get a penalty of -2, or you've drawn a different sectional drawing, then AA, you'll get a -2, and incorrect lettering, not in capital letters, -2. So just take note of the penalty count. You can accumulate a few penalties. Then this mark allocation here, this is for the roof. The markers we'll use to mark your roof on your sectional view. Now, let's start with the floor plan. The floor plan, guys, this is where you need to get your marks. I can't emphasize this more. Question 4 is where you need to accumulate marks. This is like a gold pot full of golden nuggets. You can get good marks here. Firstly, doors. Doors usually open to the closest wall. This should never be done freehand, and this should also not be done freehand. Nothing is going to be done freehand on the floor plan. Expect your electrical symbols. Doors is going to have a swing, which you're going to do with your compass. And the door usually has a thickness of 50, which will be a thickness of 1 millimeter. I usually use a rule of 1 millimeter thickness, and then the swing you will do with a compass. Then when it comes to the windows, windows usually have a window sill. So you will have a window, and then the frame of the window should be in the middle of the wall. So just take note of that. Be careful, because the opening that they give you, usually, you can see the opening here from there to there, that is usually bigger than the actual window that you need to draw in. So the window will usually be a bit smaller than the opening. So what the markers usually look for is the little extension of the wall that you have added in. So just take note of that. That is a catch point. So the opening that I gave you for the windows usually are bigger than the actual window size, either window 1 or 2, that you need to draw in. When it comes to the electrical, guys, you need to know your symbols, okay? There's no way around this. You need to know your symbols. So make sure that you go study them and that you can put them in. You're going to do that freehand, okay? So you're going to look at the number allocation on the previous page. You can see there's a 4, 1, 4, 1, 5, and you can see it. So if you start with number 1, you can see number 1 is a one-way switch, single pole. That is a light switch, single pole. So that means it looks like this. So it's just a circle with a little ear. And they want to see the full circle, and the circle should touch the wall and the ear should point downwards. Okay, so you need to put that in on all of the ones that they have indicated on this incomplete floor plan. So make sure it's a full circle and that you can see the ear. So then you'll continue to number 2, which is your one-way switch double pole. You know that the one-way switch double pole is a circle with 2 ears. So you'll put that on all the 2s. When it comes to a fluorescent light, make sure that you put in whatever they say. It's either going to be 2 times 40 watt or 2 times 80 watt or 2 times something, or it's only a 1. But they will specify it there for you on the fluorescent light. That is additional information that you need to put on the fluorescent symbol wherever you need to put it in. Usually fluorescent lights are put in a kitchen or in a garage. And then I will put there 2 times 40 like they have stated there. Then when connecting a light switch to a light, we want to take the cable, this you're also going to do freehand, from the circle to the light. It should not stop, let's say like this. You don't do this. Okay, there should not be a gap. You want to connect them, otherwise there's not going to be electricity. And we don't want to draw straight lines with a ruler. There needs to be a little bit of an arc, so you can do this freehand. Then when it comes to hatching, remember hatching is done double line, spacing, double line, spacing, double line, spacing in all the walls, your interior walls and exterior walls, load-bearing and non-load-bearing walls, all around the floor plan. And if you look at the floor plan, you see that the hatching only counts 3 marks, although it's going to take you long. So maybe I'll do this lastly. Then labels. Labels are things like the floor finish. So you need to go back to the first page. Where you look here, you see that the floor finish for the open area is tiles. So open area, you're going to write here tiles in capital letters. You see that the bathroom is tiles. So I'm going to write here tiles underneath in capital letters. The fixtures is going to correlate to the numbers. If you look in the bathroom, you see that there's an SH, which is a shower. And to draw a shower, it's going to be there in the corner. And you only put in the drain hole. No additional information. Any additional information will lead to a penalty. If you put anything extra in, it's going to be -1/2 for every extra line that you put in. If you look there, there's a water closet. It's a toilet, so it's going to look something like this. And then we have a wash basin, which sits on this wall here. And it's going to look like that. Okay, nice and simple. Conventional drawings. It's not going to be in detail. Like the drawings down here, we draw them in conventional drawings. And that is the floor plan. When it comes to the elevation, we're going to look at the marking criteria to make sure that we adhere to the elevation. So we are going to project the width of the floor plan up to the elevation, and you will need to determine the height of the roof on the incomplete floor plan. You are going to apply it here, and you're going to project this window, that door, and the sliding door up to that view, and you need to put in detailed information to the sliding door with an arrow if there's a sliding door, and if there's a window, you will need to put the detailed information in of a window, which you can see the frame as well as the opening of that window with a window sill. One thing most students tend to forget here is the finish floor level. So it's a long, short, long, short, long, short, long, short line that you need to add in here. And that line you will get, they won't give it to you here. You need to determine it here on the sectional view, and you're going to work it back into scale of 1 to 50. So just be aware of that. And make sure to also give labels where applicable. If you look at the marking criteria, walls, there's a step that you need to add doors and windows and labels. You can see that the label is only half. So just have a look. Then the sectional view. Now these two views were drawn at a scale of 1 to 50. This is drawn to a scale of 1 to 20. They gave you a starting point, which is the foundation. You're going to put the wall up here on this dimensions, which are given here, on a scale of 1 to 20. So you're going to take all these dimensions and divide it by 20, and you're going to apply it here. Take note, they gave you these two lines so that you can draw the drawing in between these two lines. So that is your stopping points. If you look at the sectional view AA, you can see that it looks in this direction. The arrows are pointing in that direction. So you stand here and you look in that direction. So that is what you need to draw. So the outside is on your left and the inside will be on your right. So first things first, you're going to get your NGL, your natural ground line, the hardcore filling, which has a 45, 45, 45 hatching. Then it's the concrete surface bed with little dots and a few triangles. Then the undisturbed soil, you can put like a bubble around. It's 45, 45, 45, 45, 45, 45 in alternating directions. 45, 45, 45. Then this is a screed. It's usually just little dots. And you need to add in the DPC here. DPC, the damp-proof course. There's always a DPC in line with the concrete surface bed at the top. The walls has the same hatching that you've applied on the floor plan. Double line spacing, all the way up until the roof. You will most definitely need to draw in a window or a door. When it comes to a window, you will have a lintel at the top, either a double or a single, most likely a double. It's going to go through an exterior wall. Then we're going to have the window frame in the middle of the wall. Then there's going to be one brick, which is 75 usually, in a thickness down. You're going to add the windowsill in here at a certain degrees as specified in the question. And you're going to add the windowsill in here as specified in the question. Over here is also a DPC underneath the windowsill. We apply the hatching underneath the windowsill as just little dots for some cement. And the same here, some cement here, dots and a few triangles. When it comes to the roof, this is the part that most students struggle with. So you will have an extension there, then you're going to have a wall plate. A wall plate hatching is opposite corners. It's like an X in that block. And then you're going to have a truss that rests on that wall plate. In this corner, you're going to apply the specific degrees as given here of the truss, which is a 20 degree. So I will put my protractor here and get 20 degrees. I'll apply the thickness of the truss over there and over there. Put the purlins in, add the ceiling board, and put the purlins here at the top. Add the sheet at the top as specified in the question. And then don't forget to apply the hatching here also in this part of the wall and over here. And sometimes when the sectional view goes into the bathroom, sometimes you will see part of a feature like a toilet or a shower or some sort of sanitary fixture. So you just need to be aware of that. Or sometimes there is a part of a window or a full window in that you need to add into the sectional view. You're also going to put in a fascia board here with a gutter, and that information you will get here on the sheet as well. Okay, good practice. Always refer back to the marking criteria to see if you adhere to all the marking criteria. You can see that label, so this is 1.5. We have NGL, DPC, DPC. That should be fine. With the window and the doors, we have a window here. And we've applied the hatching, slab in the wall, and the roof detail. Now, let's say you needed to draw in a door. There's going to be a lintel. And for the door, we're just going to see the frame of the door, which will look something like that. And then we will take all those corners down to the finished floor level. You can also add here finished floor level for another label. And that is that for question 4. So guys, you need to get your marks here. So some mark allocations, you're going to get lower order questions, middle order questions, and higher order questions. Lower order questions is going to be at the floor plan and at your analytical question. The middle order questions is going to be more at your perspective and your other solid geometry or interpenetration and development. And the higher order is definitely going to be at your 2-point perspective and at your interpenetration and development or your solid geometry. Some preparation tips that you can do it is advisable to revise past EGD papers, and you can get them on the DBE website. We can get a few papers that you can practice. You can practice some scale drawings, practice scales drawings, ensure precision and adherence to drawing conventions during exam. So you can practice a few drawings, especially your conventional drawings as well. And then also keep your instruments ready and clean. So what you must do the day before is you need to go and clean up all your drawing equipment. Your triangles, your ruler, your drawing board, your big ruler. You clean it up nicely and you make sure that everything is working and that it has leading and that it is not broken. So you pack everything the night before, you make sure that everything is nice and ready for the next day. What you can do during the exam is to read your instructions and maybe use a highlighter to emphasize a few important information. Carefully read all instructions before starting to avoid mistakes and to understand the requirements. Also look at the marking criteria to see where the marks are going. Labels, guys, you need to make sure that you label stuff. Look at the marking criteria. I've put this here because a lot of students tend to lose marks for their labels. Okay, and I say a clearly label to ensure clarity in your response and attract full marks. So make sure, look at the marking criteria. You're most likely going to get marks for labels, and that is easy mark. Then time management, you will need to manage your time. So I told you I would most likely start with question 4, then 1, and then you can choose either 2 or 3, the one which you are more comfortable with, and the whatever time you have left, you do the question that you're not most comfortable with for last. Doing this in this order allows you to accumulate the most marks with the time which you are allocated with. Approximately you have 45 minutes per each question to maximize your exam performance effectively, but this is not to say you need to spend 45 minutes on question 1. Question 1 you're usually going to spend about 20 minutes on, and then the extra 25 minutes you can divide into the other questions. But I will most likely start with question 4 because this is the question with the most marks and which will take you the longest. But it is not difficult, you just need to implement the correct principles on that drawing. Guys, you've got this. Stay calm, take it step by step, prepare smart and draw neat, and then you'll ace your exams. Thank you for tuning in. If you found this video helpful, please consider subscribing and turning on your notifications, and also let me know in the comments how it went and what you are most excited for in this exam. Take care. I'll see you in the next video.